An existence like the Dragon Emperor of the ancient Void Dragon tribe was an extremely mysterious existence in the eyes of many people. Of course, even an ordinary ancient dragon tribe member was legendary to some people. After all, the ancient Void Dragon tribe rarely came to the Central Plains. The ancient Void Dragon tribe was as mysterious and powerful as those ancient clans in the hearts of many people. The Dragon Emperor within the tribe was an existence like the clan head of the Gu clan or the Hun clan. This expert was someone even people as strong as ancestor Ho Yun and the first elder of the Pill Tower had never met. Hence, they could not hide the shock that surged onto their faces after they heard that Ziyin was actually the legendary Dragon Emperor. Haha, it is unexpected that Lady Ziyin holds such an identity. This elderly self was indeed a little blind back then. Yao Lao was startled by Xiao Yan's words. He only recovered a moment later before he solemnly cupped his hands and laughed. Ziyin felt a little unnatural by Yao Lao's politeness. She was aware that Xiao Yan viewed Yao Lao like a father. She didn't want to display the so-called Dragon Emperor airs in front of him. Teacher, there is no need to be overly polite. You can simply treat her like the little girl in the past. Xiao Yan was also aware of Ziyan's thoughts. He smiled and continued, since teacher has made this suggestion earlier, I think that you have already chosen a branch hall to attack, right? Yao Lao's expression was a little grave upon returning to this topic. He said, after starting our full-scale investigation of the Hall of Souls, we have managed to gather a lot of information. The Hall of Souls has many branch halls in the Central Plains. There are 24 of them that are more important. The Hall of Souls calls them the Disha Halls. The branch hall that I had been imprisoned in back then was one of these Disha Halls. Disha Halls, Xiao Yan slightly nodded. This was something he had never heard about. Above the Disha Halls are the Tiangang Halls. These halls are more important to the Hall of Souls, Yao Lao slowly said. The Tiangang Halls are divided into Heaven, Earth, and Man. The Heaven Hall is the headquarters of the Hall of Souls. We are currently unaware of its location. This time around, our target is the Man Hall among the Tiangang Halls. Man Hall, Xiao Yan muttered and asked, what is the strength of the Man Hall like? The Earth Hall is managed by the Deputy Hall Chief, while the Man Hall is managed by the first and second Tianzuan. Of course, we must not eliminate the possibility that the Hall of Souls has strengthened its defenses.
Yao Lao vip lít.
That third Tianzuan died in my hands back then. The second Tianzuan, Saint Guyu, is only a high-level Ban Sheng. I will not need to fear him if we meet again. Looks like we can take down this Man Hall, Xiao Yan faintly smiled. His smile was a little dark and dense. He truly hated the Hall of Souls. He had nearly died to these bastards many times over the years, but he had grown now. Perhaps he should take the initiative to collect a little of the old debt. Leave this matter of destroying the Man Hall to me. The Alliance still need experts to guard it to protect against any attempt by the Hall of Souls to do the same to us. Hence, I hope that Ancestor Ho Yun and the rest will guard this place. Xiao Yan's eyes shifted to Ancestor Ho Yun and the first elder from the Pill Tower as he spoke. I shall accompany you. The location of the Man Hall is quite secretive. It would be difficult to find even if one has a map. Yao Lao hesitated before he added. All right. Xiao Yan hesitated upon hearing Yao Lao's statement before nodding. He had Ziyin, a 4-star Dosheng, beside him. There were not many experts within the Central Plains who could threaten them. Even the Hall Chief of the Hall of Souls would not be able to easily defeat Ziyin and take all of their lives. In that case, all of you should rest for a few days. After that, we will head to the Man Hall. Yao Lao fondled his beard. A fierce glint flashed through his eyes. He and Xiao Yan had to hide when they had been pursued by the Hall of Souls. Now, they were determined to cease hiding. How could their hearts feel comfortable if they did not take revenge 100 times over? Daddy! Xiao Yan looked at little Xiao Xiao, who was stepping through the air as she joyously ran toward him. He hurriedly stepped forward and hugged that little figure who had come flying over. A faint warmth spread from his heart. "Daddy, where is Mummy?" Little Xiao Zhao's large black eyes looked behind Xiao Yin. She looked in all directions in an attempt to find Kailin. "Haha, Mummy is still training. She will return to little Xiao Xiao once she completes her training," Xiao Yin explained with a smile. He hugged little Xiao Xiao while an exclamation was suddenly emitted from his mouth. He discovered that the vast and mighty energy that had randomly been flowing within little Xiao Zhao's body had calmed down. The energy also vaguely flowed and changed according to her desire. Xiao Zhao's training talent is extremely great. Within half a year, she is already able to control the energy within her body. She can be considered a genuine elite dozong. Yao Lao by the side smiled and remarked, "Dozong." Xiao Yin rubbed Xiao Zhao's small head. He involuntarily let out a bitter laugh. Back then, he had to train and experience many difficulties just to reach the dozong class. In the end, Xiao Xiao did not need to do anything as she easily stepped to this level. Thinking about this really caused one to sigh. Moreover, she is extremely interested in pill refinement. I am planning to wait for her to become a little older before teaching her the flame mantra, after which I will help her look for a heavenly flame and slowly familiarize her with it. The gaze that Yao Lao used to look at Xiao Xiao was extremely doting as he laughed. "You really dote on her too much." Xiao Yin was helpless. He handed Xiao Xiao in his embrace to the curious Zi Yin behind him. They stared at each other while Xiao Yin clenched his hand and a jade bottle appeared in it. There was a drop of golden liquid floating inside the bottle. An extremely frightening ripple was vaguely emitted from it. "What is this?" Yao Lao's expression was slightly altered upon seeing the blood within the jade bottle. He could sense the terrifying strength within it. The essence blood left behind by an expert with half a step in the Do D class. Xiao Yin smiled. He glanced at Yao Lao and said, "If teacher consumes it, it should be possible for you to swiftly reach the first star of the Doshan class." Yao Lao carefully received the jade bottle. He flipped the jade bottle around and observed it for a long time. He was a little hesitant. This thing was far too precious, and it would benefit Xiao Yin more. "I have already consumed it. It will not do much if I consume it again. Teacher should train for the next few days. We will head to the man hall after you complete your training, and then we will eliminate it from the central plains." Xiao Yin smiled. He turned around and pulled both Zi Yin and Xiao Xiao out of the hall before Yao Lao could utter another word. Yao Lao stared at Xiao Yin's back. He let out a bitter laugh a moment later, after which he clenched the jade bottle in his hand. A warmth filled his heart. Xiao Yin remained in the Falling Star Pavilion the next few days. Having nothing to do, he began to pass on some of his Do skills to Xiao Xiao. The shocking talent that she displayed caused Xiao Yin to feel completely astounded for the first time. It was likely that only she could be described as a true genius. His so-called young genius title back in Wutan City was insignificant when compared to the current Xiao Xiao. Xiao Yin properly enjoyed the feeling of being a father for 5 days. That feeling would cause him to occasionally feel like he truly matured. His current self was no longer that reckless tender youth from back then. Instead, he was a true giant-like existence. Yao Lao, who had been in a retreat, finally appeared in front of Xiao Yin on the 6th day. Yao Lao's overflowing aura let Xiao Yin know that he had broken through to the first star of the Doshan class. Xiao Yin was not surprised by Yao Lao's breakthrough. Yao Lao boasted a good foundation. With his accumulated strength and the demon saint essence blood, it was only natural for him to reach the first star of the Doshan class. Xiao Yan's group quietly disappeared from the Falling Star Pavilion on the 2nd day after Yao Lao's had broken through. Only a small group of upper echelons were aware that the Sky Mansion Alliance was retaliating against the Hall of Souls. The Burial Mountain Range was located at the intersection between the western and southern regions of the Central Plains. Due to its terrain, This place contained an extremely dense, dangerous aura. That dark aura was mixed with a rich corpse scent because most of the people within a 500-kilometer radius were buried in this place. Hence, this burial mountain range was a strange mountain range that was built with tombs. It was difficult to find any human figures under normal circumstances. No one would be willing to stay in a place covered in a ghostly aura. Swoosh! The rushing sound of some wind suddenly appeared in the burial mountain range's quiet sky. Rays of light flashed above as a couple of figures appeared in a flash on the top of a mountain deep within the mountain range. Their eyes were locked on the deepest part of the mountain range. There was a distortion in space hidden behind a large gray-colored tree. The man hall of the Tiangang halls is in the deepest part of the burial mountain range. However, they placed a spatial barrier here. They will detect it the moment someone enters. Yao Lao pointed at the deep region as he explained. Xiao Yin slightly nodded. He glanced at Zi Yin. She smiled and gently waved her sleeve. The space around the distortion suddenly fluctuated before it turned into an enormous spatial barrier that completely covered the area. This time around, there is no need to leave any survivors. Xiao Yin slightly raised his head. A dense expression appeared on his face. Hall of Souls, this revenge has finally come over a decade later. It isn't too late, is it? Behind the somewhat distorted space was an enormous black piece of land. Some dense whiteness occasionally broke the surface of the ground. They were broken bones that revealed a strange chill. In the middle of this large area stood a quiet black hall. It seemed like an ancient, ferocious beast as it crept across the ground. An extremely dark and terrifying feeling slowly fluctuated over this sealed space. There were countless, extremely large, and rough black chains extending from the large black hall. These chains were inserted deep into the ground. There was a cluster of black fog lingering over these chains. The fog vaguely formed a human shape. Some lusters occasionally flickered over the chains. Finally, they rushed into the black fog and caused the black fog to appear as though it possessed a form. This entire area appeared unusually quiet. A strange atmosphere covered it, giving one goosebumps. Crash! Such silence continued for an unknown period of time before 10 clusters of black fog stood up from the chains. The black fog shrank before turning into 10 cold-looking human figures. These people exchanged looks with one another before they moved and gathered together. Let's go. It is time for us to execute our mission. Hopefully, we will be able to bring back enough souls this time around. A human figure, who appeared to be the leader of this group, spoke in a hoarse voice. TSK. Old Demon Lu's group launched a sneak attack against a couple of cities belonging to the Sky Mansion earlier. Not only did they manage to bring back enough souls, they were even heavily rewarded by the first Tianzuan. This time around, we will also turn a couple of Sky Mansion cities into a bloodbath. One of people laughed in a sinister manner. Remember not to leave any survivors. That leader smiled. He slowly nodded and waved his hand. A dozen-plus figures turned into black fog that hurried away from the hall with lightning-like speed.
Bang!
This group of black fog was about to charge out of the spatial barrier when the space around them suddenly stilled. It then violently collapsed. The dozen-plus figures did not even manage to emit a miserable cry before they were crushed by the frightening spatial strength into nothing. Tear. The spatial barrier was slowly split apart as a big hole formed after this group of people were annihilated. A couple of figures slowly walked in from outside and stepped across the black soil. Toot! A sharp sound was emitted from the large hall the moment Xiao Yan's group stepped through the barrier. The black fog above those chains revealed many pairs of sinister eyes that observed Xiao Yan's group. How dare you barge into the territory of my Hall of Souls? You are asking to die. Sinister, stern cries suddenly broke the silence. Many human figures stood up from the chains. Without waiting for any instructions, they turned into black lights that were accompanied by a dark wind as they charged toward Xiao Yan's group from all directions. A bunch of cannon fodder seems to happily be running around. Xiao Yan smiled after seeing them charge forward. He widened his mouth before a heated sea of fire shot out of his mouth. All of the black figures that entered within 100 feet of the sea of fire would vanish after 3 breaths. Those weaker individuals did not even manage to let out a miserable scream. The sea of fire spread. Those black figures hurrying over from behind finally froze their bodies in shock. Only then did they understand that this group was not here to kill themselves. Instead, it had truly come prepared. Bastard, how dare you act wildly in the territory of my Hall of Souls? You must be tired of living. All Tianzins, capture them. A somewhat familiar cry was suddenly emitted from the hall as the sea of fire spread across the sky. Immediately, a dozen-plus figures rushed out of the hall with lightning-like speed. Finally, they floated on the horizon. Their eyes were dark as they looked at Xiao Yan's group behind the sea of fire. Haha, you actually dare to bring out some mere dozuns? Old Ghost Guyu, it is better for you to personally step forward. Xiao Yan loudly laughed. His laughter was like thunder as it rumbled and spread through the hall. He took a step forward as he laughed and stepped across the 1,000-foot-wide sea of fire. He appeared in the air while his hand aimed at a group of Hall of Souls Tianzins before abruptly clenching it. The space stilled as his hand was clenched again.
Bang!
After Xiao Yan clenched his hand, the bodies of the dozen-plus Tianzins blasted into pools of blood. Even their souls had been shattered by that terrifying spatial pressure. With Xiao Yan's current 2-star Dosheng strength, it was impossible for some Dozun experts to obstruct him by even a little. Huh? Sea Heart Flame? Xiao Yan suddenly let out an exclamation after he clenched his hand. There was a figure remaining in that collapsed space. Moreover, this person contained an azure blue flame. Xiao Yan took a glance and recognized the origin of this flame. You are Old Man Mugu? A teasing smile was lifted on Xiao Yan's face. He waved his hand, and an invisible force pulled that human figure over. He threw a palm and shattered the blue flame lingering on that figure. A familiar figure appeared from within. Surprisingly, that figure belonged to Old Man Mugu, who had repeatedly found trouble with Xiao Yan back then and had nearly snatched the pill-gathering champion spot. Xiao Yan? Xiao Yan's heart was surprised. Old Man Mugu, on the other hand, was shocked to the point where he felt the impulse to wet himself. Ever since he had failed to snatch the 3,000 burning flame, he had been dispatched to the Man Hall. He had been collecting souls from outside of the Central Plains during this period of time. Although he had occasionally heard about Xiao Yan's soaring strength during this period of time, he did not probe for more information. After meeting Xiao Yan again, he finally understood that so-called soaring strength was much more frightening. Dosheng, you have actually advanced to the Dosheng class? Old Man Mugu looked at the young face and felt his voice tremble. Within a short few years, that member of the younger generation, who could only flee when he had been chased by him, had actually become this strong. Haha, it has been many years since I have met you, and I have been feeling some regret. The Sea Heart Flame is also a heavenly flame. It is really a waste of a natural resource to leave it with you. Since I have met you again, please hand it over. Xiao Yan laughed without being polite, his hand on Old Man Mugu's head. A strange suction force erupted from his hand. He actually intended to forcefully pull the Sea Heart Flame out of Old Man Gucha's body. Xiao Yan, you dare to barge into my Hall of Souls? You are really charging into hell to seek death. A furious roar was emitted from the hall while Xiao Yan was planning to forcefully extract the Sea Heart Flame. A black figure rushed forward. A 1,000-foot-large dark black chain penetrated air like a black poisonous dragon as it hurried to Xiao Yan. A mere Ban Sheng dares to embarrass himself? Old Ghost Guyu, you really think too highly of yourself? Xiaoyan shook his head slightly as that chain came. He flicked his finger, and a low sonic boom formed from it. That enormous chain seemed to have suffered a heavy blow as it suddenly pulled back. Finally, it collided with the large hall. Come out. Xiaoyan flicked aside St. Gu Yu's attack with a finger. He grabbed with his hand, and a cluster of blue flame was forcefully extracted from Old Man Mu Gu's body. His aura had also become a little weaker at this moment. Clearly, he had received a fatal blow. Xiaoyan, I shall engage in an all-out fight with you. Old Man Cha Gu's eyes turned blood-red after the sea heart flame was forcefully removed. His body began to swell. He clearly intended to self-destruct. The current you does not even possess the qualifications to self-destruct in front of me. Xiaoyan glanced at him with a cold and indifferent expression. He randomly waved his hand. A wave of indescribably frightening wind violently smashed into Old Man Mu Gu before shattering his body into a bloody fog the next moment. This Hall of Souls Zunjia, who had turned Xiaoyan into a miserable state back then, was not even given the chance to self-destruct at this moment. Xiaoyan glanced at the sea heart flame in his hand after shattering Old Man Chagu's body. He opened his mouth and swallowed the flame. With his current strength, swallowing the sea heart flame would no longer result in an increase in strength, but it was necessary to unleash the angry Buddha lotus flame. Although the life-transforming flame was powerful, it was still a fake heavenly flame. Only after possessing this sea heart flame would Xiaoyan be able to truly unleash a five-colored extermination fire lotus. Xiaoyan, this place will definitely be where you die today. St. Guyu flashed and appeared in the air after Xiaoyan swallowed the sea heart flame. He cried out in a dark and dense voice at the same time.
I'm sorry.
I plan to turn this place into a bloodbath today. Xiaoyan lifted his head and smiled at St. Guyu. Ziyin had already disrupted any spatial fluctuations that occurred in this place. Even if these people possessed a spatial jade to summon the experts from the Hun clan, they would not be able to use them. Because of a young fellow like you? St. Guyu ended up laughing in extreme anger after hearing those words. Xiaoyan was the first person in many years who dared to mention turning the Hall of Souls into a bloodbath. Of course, I am aware that you are not the one in charge here. Xiaoyan ignored St. Guyu. His eyes shifted to the large black hall as he said in a faint voice, that so-called First Tianzuan, there is no need to continue hiding. I, Xiaoyan, will definitely turn this place into a bloodbath today. Imph. What arrogant words. Do you really think that you can act as you like after reaching the Doshang class? It is an extremely easy matter for my Hun clan to kill you. An icy cold snort was emitted from deep within the large hall after Xiaoyan's voice sounded. A dense, black fog erupted from within the hall. A skinny skeleton-like elderly figure slowly walked out with a dark, dense aura.